Have we got audio? Right. Right, that should be working. Is that working? User error. Right, okay. Welcome back. Excuse the newbie mistake. I was so excited about having proper internet that forgot to switch the mic on in the software, so apologies for that. So we're going to talk about Subarus. Anything goes as far as questions. You ask the question, I'll do my best to answer it. If you don't know me or if you've not been here before, I'm Duncan. I tune Subarus for a living in the UK. I've been doing that for nearly 20 years now, so I've come across most things. So if you've got a problem with the Subaru, chuck it in the live stream comments, and I'll do my best to see if I can point you in the right direction for a solution. It's a little bit difficult for to actually have too much information in there because the field won't let you write too much. But spread it over 2 or 3 comments if you need to, and hopefully I'll sort of pick all the bits together. What was I going to say? Right, so yeah, Subaru related upgrades, tuning, mapping, ECU, setup, problems, check engine light, spec, what works, what doesn't work, and ask the question, put a Q in the text, just so I can see whether it's a question or whether you're just saying hello or talking to one of the other guys that's on the stream. We get quite a lot of regulars that come in here. You'll notice a little icon next to their name. They are members of the academy that I run on here to teach people how to map their own cars, or help them or guide them, or at least point them in the right direction if I can't sort of be there as such. Right, okay, I can see some questions. Right, okay, right. So yeah, anything goes. In the UK would tend to be all the models GC8 all the way up through to VAB. So most of my experiences within that. So if you've got FA engine cars, then little experience with those in the UK. So forgive me if I don't know the answer if you're asking on an FA24 engine car, because unfortunately we haven't got those here. So I'm going to put my glasses on so I can actually read the comments, because it's been a very long week, but I'm very excited that we've finally got proper internet, like 20 times faster than what it was sort of last week, so it should be a lot better. Okay, right, new setup looks good, thank you very much, Zed. I'm trying little bits every week. I'm just trying to get a little bit more advanced as far as what's here, hoping that I'll have some turbos and other sort of upgrade bits in the background at some point. So yeah, hopefully that will be sorted soon. Right, okay, so where are we at? If you're new here, say hi, where you're from. It helps me sort of figure out where people are based, what cars they're driving. It's very weird knowing that there's people in Australia, Canada, South America, Caribbean, Israel, everywhere that tune into this. This is freaks me out every week. Right. Okay. Neil, hi Neil. Last week you asked about what screen size. You said tablet, had to rewind the session. I don't do tablets in the car. What I was talking about was the new bit of kit that will be officially released in, I think, about 3 weeks' time. Will work with Android app or iPhone or Apple app So you'll be able to use it on whatever device that you actually have. Most people have got a phone with you, so you can have the phone on display in the car, and there you've got your gauges. I'm very excited about that piece of kit. There's still some last niggles and what have you as far as support is concerned, but that will, it will launch in about 3 weeks, and I can't say too much about it, but I'm very excited about it. Right. I do have a Link ECU in the background, yes. Well, I have the box anyway. The Link ECU that was in that box went into a car today, went into a Hawkeye. But hopefully I'll have a Cyvex in there back there as well, and maybe some Haltech stuff as well. So we will see. We will see. Right, Mark. If I was to change my pod air filter, will it affect the mapping if I change brand or size? Yeah, generally it would. Anything that you're doing that is affecting the amount of air that's going in the engine is going to have an impact on the air fuel ratio. It might not be a very big impact, but it will have an impact. Anything that you think is going to improve the performance, again, needs checking at the very least. Maybe even an adjustment to the map, but things like exhaust, induction, intercoolers, exhaust headers, all of these things are going to change the way that air goes into the engine or comes out of the engine, and therefore it could change the map and make it slightly leaner or richer or just not run properly. So I would say at the very least get it checked, make sure that the air fuel ratio is correct afterwards, and that it's happy. Right, I think I've finally figured out my O4S map pretty good, but still experiencing pops and bangs when I don't want them. Anything to look for to get rid of them? As long as you've got, if you wanted to get rid of the pops and bangs, kind of do the reverse of what you generally need to do to put pops and bangs in there. So, pops and bangs are created by running negative ignition timing, so effectively an ignition retard. So you're starting the spark late. So in the early columns, load wise on the map, make sure that all those values are sort of in line with the next columns along, so that you haven't got sort of minus 20s in there. Also, there's some minimum timing tables which it applies when it goes into idle. So there's some idle correction tables or idle minimum timing tables that make sure that they're, the standard values I think would be about 23 degrees of ignition timing. Make sure again that they're sort of around that sort of value, rather than, to add pops and bangs, you'd bring that down to like minus 20. If that still doesn't get rid of the pops and bangs, it's just unburnt fuel in a hot exhaust just combusting on its own. There's not an awful lot you can do about that. Right, Matt. Hi, Duncan. Question: will there be more dyno and tuning videos soon? Yes, very soon. Now that I'm back up and running with internet, I've got loads of footage of videos of tuning days for Essex Scooby Crew, turbo side of things. And yeah, it's been impossible to upload it at sort of 1 megabit per second upload speed, particularly when the files, the processed video files are generally about 8 gigabyte, sometimes more if it's a long video. So I can't do like a 24-hour upload. So yes, there is lots coming. There is, I'm filming another video tomorrow, or maybe Saturday morning, but probably tomorrow, which will be reviewing or testing one of the fake Tactrix cables, because I know Tactrix have been out of stock with the open port cables for bloody months now, and everyone wants to get hold of them. No one can get hold of them. There's none in the world, and so I need to test whether it's possible to do what we want to do with one of the fake ones. So that will be happening. It'll probably be a very short video. Hopefully it'll work. Who knows? But I'll be able to tell, and I will put that video out separately. And if it does work, then I'll put out a link of what it is that is actually working. Boom, 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 boom. Right. Right, hold on a minute. Right, hi Sean. Any idea what the sensor is on a Bug-Eyed WRX back of the manifold with a pipe that follows wiring loom? Just noticed this when I refit the rebuilt engine, doesn't seem to go anywhere. Back of the manifold, if there's one on either side, it'd be the TGVs, but then that wouldn't have a pipe on the back of the manifold. You've got the purge solenoid at the front of the manifold. On the back of the manifold there isn't anything. Yeah, I've no idea on that one, Sean. Perhaps someone else could right, passenger side on the UK car, or right, sorry, tilt that for James. Right, yeah, UK car passenger side at the back. Trying to think what's there. You've got the TGVs at the bottom of each inlet stack. So on one side there'll be a motor at the back, and the other side it'll be a position sensor, and at the front there'll be the opposite. But nothing that's got a vacuum hose on it. I'm presuming you're meaning a hose, a vacuum hose. Yeah, knock sensor is at the bottom underneath the manifold. Black pipe comes from the top of the sensor. I've no idea. No idea. I don't. Email me a picture of it, or WhatsApp me a picture of it, Sean. So I'm not even sure that's standard. It might be to a boost gauge or something like that. Yeah, the wall art. Yeah, I forget that way. They got various ones. I got that on Etsy. So if you wanted to pick one up, they do various sizes, but I picked that size because it kind of fits in the space. Yeah, I think there's a few guys that are saying boost gauge. I think it has to be an old pressure sensor for a boost gauge that isn't connected anymore, or that isn't working, or isn't in the car even. Right, okay, right, so I'm up to date with questions. So yeah, on the Tactrix side of things, I thought it'd be really helpful to actually test it rather than you guys doing it and potentially screwing things up. I can test it on my car, test it on a couple of other cars where I've got spare ECUs just in case it does screw things up, and then I can sort of say yes it works, or no it doesn't work, or yes it does work if you install these drivers, do X, Y and Z. So yeah, there's that as an option. There's also potential of using something like the Project Lambda connector, which is a Bluetooth connector that you can connect to your laptop. Got one of those through as well, and we'll be testing that as well. So that will probably be a separate video as well. Right. Okay, got my wideband installed. How to go about wiring in the signal for data logging? Right. In the Discord group, have a chat with Zed. He's done this on his. You need to make some changes to whatever input you're bringing it into. So on yours, maybe a TGV input if you no longer got TGVs, and bring it in on that, or the rear O2 sensor. But you'd need to change the XML definitions to actually convert the value that it's seeing for the wideband into an actual value. Zed has documented what he's done with his. It was a really good write-up, really good information. So if you can't find it directly in there, have a word with Zed. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to help sort of share what he's done. But yeah, in the Discord group, there's so much information. And the guys are awesome at helping each other as well if I'm not around, which has been really difficult without internet. When we're talking about other videos, are there any other videos that you wanted me to do? So if you've got an idea for a video, pop it in the comments below, and you know, I'm all ears on that. I've got loads of ideas for videos, just time is always the issue. You know, filming it is, if I'm tuning customers' cars, filming it effectively doubles the time that it takes, and not all the time people want their cars videoed, it's then the editing time as well. So you know, if it's a 30-minute video, then you know it's about 6 hours worth of editing. There we go, Matt. Yeah, have a word with Zed. He's done it all, definitions, made the changes, calibrated that as well. So that, and he brought that back into the data logging, which is a really useful thing. Right. Yeah, a lot of people do. The other option with these things is to run like an Android head unit and actually have the head unit using the app and displaying the gauges where the head unit is, and obviously also playing stereo or music or whatever you want. It's just, it makes it easier rather than having a separate digital display. Or a separate collection of gauges. You can have gauges when you want them and no gauges when you don't want them. Right, you've been tuning yours and got MAF dialed in, but when switching from closed loop to open loop, when boost comes in, I have a lot of lag. Okay, can you give us a bit more information on that? What car it is, and what the definition of a lot of lag is? Generally, the transition from closed loop, where it's trying to get to sort of 14.7 AFR, and then it goes to open loop, generally is it should be a smoothish dip down to sort of 11.2, 11.3 AFR. So it should do that pretty smoothly. If it's going leaner than 14.7, then that would contribute towards a little bit of lag. or it could also be ignition timing is a little bit lower there, which is making it feel slow. Subarus need ignition timing to actually bring them alive, and that's one of the big differences between 95 run fuel maps and 99 run fuel maps, or low octane, high octane. Because on the high octane you can run much more ignition timing, sort of 5, 6, 7 degrees sometimes. Okay, so it's an O2 WRX. Standard turbo. Standard turbo shouldn't be laggy at all, really, on that, unless you've got a bigger up pipe, which will slow down the exhaust gases, which will make it laggier. Okay, so right, so it goes rich. Right, when you say rich, not super rich, but right, okay, but down to 11. Right, okay, that's not going to slow it down. I think to bring that alive, if you've not changed the up pipe, and if the turbo's working properly, then try ignition timing in that point just to bring it alive. Obviously, make sure you got deck cans on there or some way of listening for detonation. Don't rely on the ECU to hear it, because particularly on the O2 WRXs, it doesn't hear it very often. Deck cans. You need deck cans. If you're going to be tuning your car, wideband deck cans, got to be done. Ignore the people on Facebook groups, tuning groups that say, oh, you don't need those. The ECU will correct for it, will learn for it. That's how far in my 23 minutes? Right, it's bollocks. Right, there are so many instances where I've heard that ECU hasn't, and I'm talking proper big debt, not just little tinkles of debt, but big debt. ECU doesn't hear a thing. You could be quite merrily thinking that the ECU is really clean, there's no debt, there's no knock, and meanwhile the engine is gradually killing itself, or some cases not very gradual. Right. If it feels like hesitation, more timing will solve that, I'm sure. But make sure deck cans. Got to do deck cans. Awesome. Do I still remote tune? Yes. Yeah. But I do rely on you having wideband and deck cans, because I will always tune with deck cans, and if you haven't got deck cans, then as I say, knock could be killing your engine, and if you're not listening for it, it's going to be an issue. So yeah, you need to basically be my eyes and ears on the ground there while you're doing the first steps of the tuning, where we start with a base map, and then you do some data logging, go back and make some changes to the map, do some more data logging, and so on and so forth, until it's where it wants to be or where you want to take over from. Yeah, I would say so. I had one today where I'd taken out sort of 2 or 3 degrees of ignition timing at the low end, just to give it a bit of safety margin for potentially dodgy fuel for European trip, and it can make the car feel a little bit hesitant. On my car, on the Forester SH, I tuned that for 95 RON fuel for long distance trips into Europe and what have you, and on that fuel, on that map with that ignition timing, it can feel hesitant. It's a problem that you have on legacy GTs as well, where it's a high compression engine. So if it's high compression engine and you're taking ignition timing out, then it will feel hesitant. Low compression engine would solve that. clutch fork. Nice. That's great. Well done. 301 wheel horsepower. Nice. Right, James, do you use the rear demister button for maps? When I click mine twice quick with foot down, definitely feel an increase in power. On ECU Tech, Race ROM and Mega ROM, or whatever the previous one, I can't remember what it was called. There is an option to have a second map on some cars, some ECUs, where it takes it to a second boost map. And that's by, rear demister with full throttle, and it'll flash the engine light twice to say that you're on the second map. But it's always really difficult to know what map, or impossible to know what map you're on, so I don't tend to put it on cars that much. Sometimes at a Hawkeye STI or WX, where they're wanting like sort of flat foot shifting, downshift, blip, those sort of things, I'll use Ecotec and use it that way. But a lot of the time, if it's on a Hawkeye and I'm on a hatchback onwards, and I'm putting Ecotec Race ROM on there, then I use the Sport Sharp I mode. Right, in America we have 93. Right, so your 93 octane is about the equivalent to our 98.5 or 99 RON fuel. You use AKI, but call it octane. We use RON and call it octane as well. Bloody confusing. Did a video on it. Everyone confused the hell out of everyone. Even confused me at some points, and it was... There is effectively, you have 91, 93, I think in some states you probably even have like 88 or 89, which is like lawnmower fuel basically. So 93 is the same as our 99, all pretty close. Right, take it the Forester STI, can't do this. It can do switchable maps on the Forester STI on Ecotec using Race ROM, but there are some limitations. You can even do it with the Ecotec dongle and the Ecotec app on your phone to switch between race map and standard map. But you can't on the app adjust launch control and those sort of things. But yes, it can do that on the Forester STI. Even though it is a smaller file, there is still room for it to do the map switching. Do I e-tune US cars? Yeah, a lot of the guys over there, because of all the Green Speed initiative and all the rest of it, official COB dealers and Ecotec dealers can't do a lot of the things that people are wanting doing. So the only option is either tuning it yourself or remote tuning. I'm happy to work on either basis, where it's remote help, remote tuning, but eventually with a view to you taking it over yourself. So it's kind of guided learning. Taking you through the first steps, middle steps, but it does rely on you having wideband, does rely on you using deck cams, so it's a lot of responsibility on you at your end. So it's not like US e-tune stuff where they'll send you a file and be like, there you go, that's it for your mods. It doesn't work like that in my experience. But I'm not here to sell my services or whatever. These sessions are just really for questions and answers. I don't want to promote me or my mapping or whatever. If you got questions or email me about that, it's a lot easier to go through it on email. Right, how are we doing questions wise? Right. How am I up to date? Dun, dun, dun. A little update. My Forester STI has now got a new home, so that is no longer going to be featured in any of my videos because I no longer own it. So that's gone to a very good home of a friend of a Forester STI owning customer of mine. He loved his friend's car and asked whether I'd sell mine, and yes, I did. So yes, that's gone for the moment. So that will leave me to focus on getting the legacy up and running, which has been a little bit too long. But yeah, things change. Update on the Tomicara video coming soon on that, because I've driven it now and it's awesome. But yeah, there's going to be a full video of pretty much the finished project. So yeah, can't wait to show you that. It's beautiful. Right, couldn't tell the difference with deck cams. It didn't show knock, but wasn't sure what I was listening for. Okay, I did a video where the early signs of detonation were heard on the video. If you start hearing that, that's kind of like a soft point to say, okay, that's enough. If you're hearing loud ticks or clicks, then that's definitely a point to say, right, stop, lift off, take out some ignition timing, check the fueling, make sure that's right. But once you've heard the sound, you cannot mistake it for anything else. It is very, very distinctive. As long as you're bolting the deck cams onto the inlet manifold, then you get a nice clear sound if you've made them similar to what I did in my videos. If you're bolting it onto the engine block, you can still hear it as well, but there's also like gearbox noise that you might need to contend with. It's a little bit less clear. Yeah, I try not to get too emotionally attached to cars. It's I've got another project that's on the go, so it's fine. You know, it's gone to a good home. I wouldn't sell it to anyone that wasn't going to look after it. Right, hey, what's your opinion on water injection with top mount? Water injection is difficult. The only way you can really use that on the standard ECU is to use it as a safety margin. It does work to cool down the charge, but because the ECU can't have an input to say, oh, if the tank's empty, then don't put the extra ignition timing in. It's difficult to actually tune for it, because when the tank runs out, or if the nozzle blocks, or the pipe comes off, or whatever it is, the ECU would be happily adding 2-3 degrees of extra ignition timing, detonate its tits off, and you know, you'll end up with a broken engine. On an aftermarket ECU, yes, you can add in sort of inputs that will enable the extra performance if the tank's working and running. But doing that on the standard ECU is a little bit troublesome. Right. Yeah, even with speed density, you can, but you're relying on like an input into it. There are better ways to do it. If you've got access to methanol, then like do a map for methanol. You'll get more power as a result. Flex fuel again would be a good option. You'll get more out of it than a water meth tank. In my experience, in the Subaru world, the water meth injection kits don't work particularly well. It's better to run flex fuel. See, Neil agrees as well, so winner. But you can do, like with Carberry 4.2, you can do flex fuel, or with Merc Mod or Dyne Mod, you can do flex fuel. So, you know, they can allow you that. An aftermarket ECU will always do it better and smoother and cleaner, but it is possible on the standard ECU for some cars, not all cars. Yeah, Link, Cyvex, Haltech, yeah, you name it. Blah, blah, blah. What are they called? Yeah, pretty much all the aftermarket ECUs will allow you to do flex fuel, or you can find a way to do it within there. Is there anything tuning-wise that you can adjust in the auto transmissions, or is the TCU just a control unit? Generally, the people that I've seen that have had success at modifying the auto transmissions, it's hardware related rather than software related. It's, you know, I haven't gone into it. I haven't done it myself, but it is possible to speed up the gear change. But it isn't a software thing. Bum bum. Any more questions on that? Generally, these sessions last an hour, or unless people run out of questions, in which case I close it early. But yeah, ask a question. Have I tried the Amazon OpenPort? I've tried a couple of cheap ones off Amazon and they work fine for data logging, but as soon as you start reading and writing, then get into issues. The one that I've got arriving should be this evening, actually. Well, they said it was this evening. Has got the extra little chip on there that will hold up the programming voltage. So in theory, it should work if I can get the drivers for it working. The other ones didn't work. The cheap ones didn't work. Okay, you've got a 2004 mostly stock blob and a 2004 moderately modified bug-eye. When I data log them and review, the bug-eye AFR and air fuel learning bounce around a lot more than the blob eye. Is that normal? The AFR and the air fuel learning are probably going to bounce around a lot more because it's modified. By that, I'm assuming the bug-eye's got 1050s run on the 85. Yeah, it would be just by nature of the injector size is different, the car's different, it's responding different. The ECUs essentially are the same hardware wise. You know, you can put a 2002 ROM file on a 2004 ECU if you really wanted to. There's no point because the 2004 ROM is better. There's no reason why it should be more varying in the bug eye to the blob eye. So I would say that's just down to spec. Yes. Yeah, who wants a Datsun anyway? God. Yeah. Yesterday I had, I don't know whether you remember seeing the little short video that I did of the Beetle with the Subaru engine on the back. That was on the dyno yesterday. Just tries to kill me every time, because the extraction doesn't go anywhere near where the exhaust is, and it's just, it's not very good for me, like methanol mix and all the rest of that. But an incredible car. It's brutal, absolutely brutal. Running about 800 horsepower in this 600 kilo Beetle, which is pretty damn cool. So that'll be back out at the pod, Santa Pod next year. We're just getting some setup of that done yesterday, and sort of fine tuning. There's always someone that asks, a cylinder 4 cooling mod. Yeah, okay. I've covered that on lots of different videos. I think it's a waste of money. People think it's great. No one has convinced me otherwise. I've never needed it. I've never put it on one of my cars. I never would put it on one of my cars. I think makes it harder to bleed. There's a big difference between the original Get a Dom Tune one and ones that other companies, who I won't name, yeah, there's a big difference, and there's a missing part in some of the other ones. I just don't see the need for it. I was running 850 horsepower without that, without any cooling issues or anything. So, it's not needed. It's just a bit of, it's just, I don't think it's worth it. Put one on if you want. I don't think it's going to hurt things, but I wouldn't put one on my car. Yeah, the ICP one is better than the other companies. Yeah, I don't like. I just, I've had 25 years worth of Subaru ownership and modifying, and I have never needed it. So, yeah, that's my. If someone wants to really tell me why, yeah, cylinder 4 maybe runs hotter, but did Subaru do that on purpose so that the knock sensor, which is on cylinder 4, is an early warning system for the rest of it? Who knows? And unless you get the engine builders and tech team from Subaru saying that that's what they did, or they didn't realise that cylinder 4 was hotter, then yeah, I just think it's a waste of money. But there's lots of shiny stuff that people buy that I think is a waste of money. I think I did a video on that actually, or 2 videos even. Yeah, that Beetle, it absolutely terrifies me. When we were only running it at sort of 1.5 bar yesterday, and it's brutal. You've not got a heat shield surrounding my turbo. Is that bad, Duncan? Should I get original metal shield or protective wrap thing? The original metal shield doesn't do an awful lot. I've got to be honest. It looks nice. If you're putting a car back together, an original looking car, then it looks nice when it's there. I don't think it does a huge amount. But the exhaust or the turbo blankets that go around do work. They do hold the heat in the turbo. They do help it spool up slightly better, but they're a pain in the arse to put on, unless it's a really good quality one, like a Funk Motorsport one, really good quality. I'm sure other good quality ones exist. But yeah, they work, but they're just a pain in the arse with the 2 springs that go underneath. Really difficult. Boom, boom, boom. Opinion on forged piston in a stock bore. It depends what engine and what forged pistons. I don't see a problem with doing it. Whether it's if you damage a set of pistons, then put some forged ones in there. There's no reason why you wouldn't. But are they stronger than the standard ones? Are they too strong for what you need? It depends what you're trying to get to power wise. If you're wanting to go sort of 500-600 horsepower, then yeah, forged pistons are the way forward, the only way forward really. Boom, boom, boom. Right, what kind of horsepower do you think is safe for a 2-litre block with new Subaru forged crank, manually forged rods, or some forged pistons? Okay. The crank will do, I ran 850 on the standard crank, nitrided crank. Manually forged rods, I think they badge those as 150 horsepower rod, but probably take more than that. So let's say their potential is 800 horsepower. Pistons, if it's mapped depth free, then they should be able to cope with 600-700, maybe 800. 2-litre block, it depends which 2-litre block. If it's an open deck, then 400 horsepower before the cylinder walls start going oval. If it's semi-closed deck block, then maybe 500 horsepower, maybe 550. If it's closed deck, then more than that. So yeah, it depends what sort of horsepower you're trying to get to, really. Yes, deck that doesn't have a hole in it is a good deck. Yeah. But yeah, as Neil said, it depends which deck it is, whether it's open, closed, or semi-closed. Closed deck, you can probably get 700-800 horsepower out of that. Open deck, 400 before it starts going oval. You might be lucky and be able to get more than that for a limited period of time if you're not using the power all the time. But if it's a track car or something, then I would probably say a semi-closed deck, if you're trying to get around the 500 horsepower mark, is good. Okay, yeah, 450, good and fun number, yeah. A standard STI bottom end to do that. You don't need the extra rods and the pistons. Straight from the factory, EJ207 short block would do that. Right, how are we doing? Right, 10 minutes left, or until you run out of questions for me. Yeah, on the thick wall blocks, I think they're good for a lot of power. I've run 640 through them, and they're fine with that. Obviously, it's not going to last forever at that sort of horsepower. It's not going to last forever at that sort of boost. But Neil's probably not using 2.3 bar every day, all day. So you kind of get to the point where it's like, do I spend 10,000, 12,000 on a forged engine build that's going to be massively overspec'd, and there could still be something else that kills it, like an oil supply issue, or fuel pump failing, or a fuel pressure regulator failing, and it goes lean holes at piston, destroys it? Or do you put a standard EJ207 in there, hope that it survives? If it survives a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years at 500 horsepower, if it breaks, you put another one in. You could do that 4 times and it still costs you less than the original forged build. Yeah, 2 holes in the block. Yeah, Zed, he's outdone you, mate. He's outdone you, 2 holes. Ooh, ouch. Yeah, you know, if you were on it all day, every time you went out, you're like full throttle everywhere, then, you know, it's not going to last. You know, all the fun stuff, all the power, all the toys, all the anti-lag, all the pops and bangs and whatever, all of them are just nibbling away at the potential reliability. And as much fun as it is to be sort of pushing the envelope and taking things up to the edge, you know, like Neil's done, just wind it back a little bit for reliability. It's more fun to have a car that's working than one that's not. When do you recommend fuel rail and regulator? For my own car, I was running 500 horsepower on the standard rails, standard fuel pressure regulator, and it was just starting to mess around at that point. Generally speaking, I would recommend to a customer probably 400 horsepower upwards, and you've got to be starting to look at an adjustable fuel pressure regulator. If you'd put in an adjustable fuel pressure regulator on there, then do it properly with proper lines. So do it at that point with the fuel rails, and it's easier, cleaner and safer. Don't use braided hoses with Jubilee clips, because you'll have a fuel leak and the car will destroy itself. I have seen that, and it's not pretty. Right, Neil doesn't do pops and bangs. Thinks it's stupid. Everyone has their own opinion of what's good, what's bad. You know, pops and bangs on a switch, great. But yeah, for me, it's you know, if I'm going through tunnels, that's it. Or yeah, coming out of the dyno cell, I always tend to put the pops and bangs on. Right, any other questions, guys, or I will close the session. Oh. Right, is there a way to run my wideband as a plugin to make this easier? There is on some widebands. Message me on Discord, Matt, and tell me what wideband you got. On some of them, you can bring it straight into a USB port. I think, from memory, I think Lauren did that in the early days, which worked pretty well for him for data logging. Yeah, message me on that, and I'll dig out the information. Stock fuel filter on the bug eye. Yep, nothing wrong with that. Standard sock on the bottom of the fuel pump. Standard fuel filter in the engine bay works perfectly fine. But if you go in parallel rails, then maybe an inline sort of fuel filter would be a good plan. But you know, all these little bits of money add up. He may have done, Neil. He may have done. I've been so crazy busy the last few weeks. Emails have been largely ignored. telephone, it's difficult to ring back all the people that are ringing me. So, yeah, he may have done, but I haven't spoken to him. Has my SG9 sold now? Yes, it has, Fez. Yeah, it's got a new home. It was all the bits that, I didn't want to sell it with any rust on. So new rear arches, new brake discs at the back, and new wheel bearing, and yeah, it's gone. Right, Ramona Alex. My fuel learning sometimes beyond -10 on stock setup. The EJ20 replaced O2 bank 1. Would it be safe to drive the car hard? The only answer to that really is make a set of deck cans, listen to the engine, or have someone listen into the engine while you're driving it hard, and listen out for detonation. Wideband, a proper wideband in there, and you'll be able to see whether it's getting to the right air fuel ratio when you're on boost, even with the learnings that are on. But yeah, deck cans is the only way to tell whether it's safe or not. ECU might not be retarding ignition for knock, because it might not hear it. Doesn't mean it's not there. Boom. Decent budget brand for gauges. The Pro Sport ones seem to work all right. Just make sure you wire in a permanent live to them, because the annoying beeping as you switch on the ignition really gets on my tits, I'm afraid. Yeah, if you put a permanent live to them, you can just hold the button when you switch on the ignition, and the beeping stops. But they seem to work as well as others. The sensors are maybe not quite as reliable as maybe Defi ones, but they're as accurate as Defi, i.e. slightly inaccurate. And Forester EJ205, full service history. Yeah, 200,000, 300,000. I've seen them more than that. I think the most are mapped on a Subaru Impreza was 250,000 miles. So if you're talking kilometres, then 250,000 miles, what's that, 400,000 kilometres? Yeah, that was fine. It worked perfectly. Subarus don't tend to produce any less power. It's just, you can never be entirely sure what the history of the car is before you've had it. If you've had the car since new, then that it's fine. It's been looked after. It's had proper oil changes. But when you pull an engine out of a car that's had an issue and the engine's gone, and you see staining inside the engine, then you can kind of get the impression that it's not really been looked after that well at some point during its life. Tuned diesel Subarus, no. I have done, won't do it. They're just not reliable enough. The cranks have a habit of snapping, and I don't want to be anywhere near one when that happens. Yeah, me too. Like the beep. If you got 3 Pro Sport gauges, they all beep at slightly different frequencies, so you get a real awful combination of sounds. And yeah, permanent live and an ignition live to them, and then it will remember what your choice is, whether you want the beeping or whether you just want the flashing gauges. Right, I am going to call this session to an end. See you next week, but thank you for joining me tonight. and hopefully the video and the sound quality was good after I remembered to switch my mic on. So apologies for that, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.